Hello, and welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Let's Talk About It podcast. Coming at you, not live, but a pre-recorded session.
Another Thursday session as well.
Yeah, we seem to be moving towards a Thursday schedule because it's been a long-standing joke here that on our Wednesday sessions, the morning after we record the podcast is when a lot of the juicy news comes out. So we gotta that was the case this week too. There's some important announcements that happened today that we'll briefly talk over just because they're not overall that important for what we usually want to cover. But anyway, this should make an interesting, episode 19 is today? Episode 19 of the Let's Talk About It podcast? Dang, time flies when you're having fun. Absolutely. But let's see here. I think if we're gonna start doing podcasts on Thursdays, we should have a throwback Thursday news item, like what happened like 20 years ago in tech and gaming, what happened 30 years ago in tech and gaming. We'll get that ready for next week if it sounds like a good idea.
I'm down.
Yeah, I just thought of that right now because I don't have a lot of interesting news stories this week in tech, so I'm thinking of ways to pad the time if that ever happens again. But nonetheless, we got lots to bring to you guys yet again. We also have an announcement about a really cool piece of podcast memorabilia, and that we have a hot sauce on its way. It'll be here next week. It's a Carolina Reaper base, along with some other spices and flavors in there, including saffron. What's the other one? The really interesting one? We had saffron in there.
Oh man, there were so many interesting choices we had.
Yeah, I want to say there's chipotle in there too.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting flavor profile that we designed for it. It should be really hot, but should also have some really cool flavors in there. I don't think there's any hot sauce that we'll be able to compare it to, which is kind of the point. It's supposed to be unique, right? But anyways, as soon as we get those in, we'll post it on our social medias for you guys to see. And they will be for sale in case you want to buy one. So keep your eyes peeled for that. But anyway, let's dive right into today's news stories, as always, first with the tech, the latest and greatest. So this week, there's actually a lot of phone leaks to see. Starting off first with the Pixel 4a. The rumored launch date is early June. The rumored launch date before this one was actually yesterday, the 13th of May, because that's when the original Google I.O. was supposed to happen. But of course it was canceled because of the virus. And so now it's about June that we're estimating that the phone will be released. There's not really much to talk about the phone itself. But they're actually, because there's been so many leaks on it already, but actually there's one more important leak on that, two more actually this last week. And so with these two leaks, there's really no surprise. There's going to be no surprises as to what the Pixel 4a is actually going to be once it's hit the market, right? But the first leak to talk about the Pixel 4a this last week is that the wallpapers that are included on the phone have been leaked, and you can download them. There's several file repositories you can go to download those wallpapers in case you want them on your phone. And funny enough, some of the wallpapers there actually are tailored to the hole punch camera in the Pixel 4a screen. So there's little designs around that little hole punch, and really cutesy, artsy fartsy type of stuff. So you can check those out if you want. But of course it's real gimmicky, and it's really weird to have a Pixel 4a background on your Pixel 1st gen, in my opinion. But that's besides the point. The second really important thing that was leaked about the Pixel 4a this week is actually benchmarking performance of the Pixel 4a. There was, Pixel 4a's have kind of been out in the wild already, and so that's how we've gotten a lot of leaks. But this week there's a dude called Giulio Lusone, and I probably didn't pronounce that right. But he runs the Technolike Plus channel on YouTube, and this is the same place where he got the early camera samples from the Pixel 4a a couple weeks ago. But he actually did some benchmarking of the phone this time around, and so the TLDR of these benchmarks is that this Pixel 4a is going to perform similarly to the Snapdragon 845 processor, which is about 2 years old at this point, and I believe it's the same one that's actually in my Galaxy Note 9 right here. But of course, there's updated, Adreno GPU specs with that too. Newer generation RAM that goes along with it. But overall, it's going to be a very well-performing phone, especially considering the fact that my Note 9 in my hand right here was like the top performer the year that it came out, and that wasn't too long ago, like 2 years ago. So that's really exciting and really good to see, especially because, again, the Pixel 4a is a mid-range device. It's going to be brand spanking new. It's going to be $399. Like, that's very impressive numbers for what we'll be paying for it.
Yeah.
I say it like if I'm going to be paying for it, which I do plan on doing that. But of course, there's other mid-range phones that are going to be releasing around the same time. So I'm kind of holding my breath to see what happens there, and we're actually going to talk about some of those other phone leaks here in a second as well. With these leaked benchmarks of the Pixel 4a, there's really nothing we don't know about the phone at this point. Like, we're just waiting for it to be available on the store so we can buy it and have it in our hands. But anyways, it's going to be a really good phone. I have really high hopes for it. Especially with this being a Pixel phone, being the non-bloated version of Android, a great performer in that sense. Especially, I expect it to, although the benchmarks show that it's on par and beating the old Snapdragon 845, like on my Note 9, the Note is pretty bloated with a lot of the Samsung's old UI stuff. So it's going to be a better phone overall. I think the performance is going to last longer overall. That's my guess. But that's it for the Pixel news this week. The other leak that we have here is actually on the Galaxy Note 20 phone. And so there's going to be a lot to discuss here, lots of high-end specs. The Note typically tends to be the power user phone of the Samsung lineup, and especially with the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra this year, which was like, the creme de la creme, the most expensive lineup. The Galaxy Note, of course, the Galaxy Note 20 is sized up to dethrone that here. So, as far as the leak specs for the Galaxy Note 20, there's lots of variants with lots of different specs, but the Galaxy Note 20 leaks show that there's going to be various display sizes, up to 16 gigabytes of RAM, and Qualcomm's second-gen Sonic Max fingerprint sensor. So, kind of diving deep into that, the Sonic Max fingerprint reader from Qualcomm is an ultrasonic fingerprint technology, and it's capable of reading 2 fingerprints at the same time. So that's pretty cool, because that's not done like anywhere yet. So this is going to be the first time we'll have that technology available to us. The sensor itself was introduced back in December. And so, it's not new, but having it announced or leaked in a phone is new, per se. And fun fact about the sensor, it's 17 times larger than the fingerprint scanner before it. And so it's promised to be, to be faster at reading fingerprints and unlocking them that way. The next leak spec about the Galaxy Note 20 is the selfie camera position that, according to the leaks, it will remain in the same position as the Note 10, meaning that it's going to be a selfie, punch hole camera on the usual center position of the screen. The screen itself is rumored to be a 6.42 inch on the regular Note 20 and 6.87 inches on the Note 20 Plus. So it looks like we have a couple, leaks for different, size Galaxy Notes here. Going back to the RAM, the highest capacity you can order is 16 gigabytes in case you want to have RAM that is the same capacity as your gaming PC. That's definitely my case there. As far as the battery sizes, they're going to range in between 4,000 and 5,000 milliamp hours, which is about, what they are in the Galaxy S20 lineup for this year. The Note 20 Plus, yes, you heard that, Note 20 Plus, is going to sport a larger battery, but that's kind of like not so much a leak, but more of an expectation. So 5,000 plus milliamp hours on that one, just from expectations. But yeah, so all these things lining up for the Note to be a very impressive phone. I've always liked the Note phones, just because they've been touted as the power user phone, and ever since I've had my Note 9, that has definitely been the case. I really like this phone. I just don't like that it's made by Samsung, and it's super delicate because I've cracked it twice.
I want to say the last Note I had was actually the Note 3, and I remember really, really liking that phone.
Mm-hmm.
It was especially my favorite just because around the time I was really big into that draw something game.
Yeah, yeah.
And the phone came with the little pen.
Yeah.
That's crazy though that it 16 gigs of RAM.
Yeah, on your phone.
That's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, so there should be no excuse for apps to be slowing down in my mind. But yeah, I mean, all this is going to come at a price. The Note 20 is not going to be a cheap phone.
I would imagine too, since it is the Note, they're not really centered around things such as the photos. So I would imagine the photos are not going to be as pristine as like the Pixel 4a for example.
Yeah. I mean, the cameras have never really been the focal point of the Note phones.
They're more business phones, I would say.
Yep. And photo taking is not very business. They've always been competitive, at least though.
Well, tell that to all the Instagram influencers, sir.
True. Don't rub it in. They make more money than I do, doing less. I try to forget that every day.
Speaking of more money, not to get too off subject, dude, did you hear Jeff Bezos is on track to be the world's first trillionaire?
Oh my! No, I didn't hear that. I need a drink to forget that. A trillion, dude. A billion is already a lot of money, let alone a trillion. Like,
yeah, dude.
If we made like 100K a day since like Jesus's time, we still wouldn't have put a dent in the fortune that Jeff Bezos has right now.
It's estimated that he'll be the world's first trillionaire by 2026.
Everyone just stop using Amazon, please.
Nuts.
Just please stop. Someone please take Amazon down and Jeff Bezos with it. No one needs that amount of money. No single individual needs that amount. All right, let me rephrase that. No single individual can ever use up that amount of money in their lifetime.
Dude, he can literally fund all of America.
Yeah. He could buy Uganda if he wants to. Well, imagine if you were rich enough to buy Uganda. Would you do it? I would.
I probably would. I'd be like, hey, I own some countries.
I know.
I'd be buying up whatever I could just because of how fast he makes it back.
Yeah. No kidding. Let's not think about that. Let's think about more phone leaks.
Back to tech. Sorry,
I know. Before I get too depressed, the next leak here is actually another Galaxy leak here from Samsung, and it's a leak on a possible Galaxy Fold Lite that could arrive in late 2020. It's going to feature, the biggest thing about this leak is that it's going to have a reduced price from the Galaxy Fold, which, reminder, costs $1,980 MSRP. So after taxes and everything, it's a $2,000 phone. So that's weird. but yeah, so this Galaxy Fold Lite, this rumored Galaxy Fold Lite, is going to be slightly cheaper at $1,100, so definitely not in the budget range, still in the typical higher end of the phone range. And so, if you want to get your Galaxy Fold, possibly updated version, but not as expensive, this may be the route to go. It's rumored to have a Snapdragon 865 chipset inside. It's going to feature 4G, so not 5G, capabilities. Oh my gosh, I mixed up my words, but it's going to be outfitted with an interesting mix of 2018, 2019, and 2020 cell phone components. So we don't know exactly which ones, right? And the display on the outside of the phone will be smaller, not really like the Fold, but more like the Galaxy Z Flip. If you guys want to use that, as reference. But but yeah. So this it's also rumored to only come in one size variant for the storage, and that's just a 256 gigabyte variant. So nothing other than that. According to the leak as well, Samsung will attempt to clear out the Galaxy Fold inventory as well. So they'll probably slash prices on that as well. And so, the fact that they're releasing a light version that's this expensive still doesn't sit right with me. But I guess they're gonna do it with or without my approval.
I personally don't see this phone selling much more than people on YouTube doing product reviews of it, for the simple fact that not only the price range, but you're charging that much. It's not going to be capable of 5G. I mean, and
if the rumors are true.
If the rumors are true. And I don't know, it just doesn't seem. I mean, you could buy like 3 Pixel 4As for that price?
Yeah. Pretty much.
You're basically just paying for the Fold and how many gigs is on that phone, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. For the form factor.
Which is ridiculous considering that your phone's not going to last forever because of the Fold.
Yeah, it's going to break sooner than most other phones because of the Fold, actually. Especially here where we live in Arizona, dust and dirt, sand grain.
It's in the air.
Everywhere. Yeah, we breathe it every day. And so that's a big problem that I have with a lot of screen protectors for phones, especially, well, not especially, but even the tempered glass ones, is that after a while, all the edges of the glass screen protector are just caked with sand grain. And it pisses my OCD side off so much.
And obviously you're going to want a screen protector, and I feel like if you get the phone is made to fold that much. I don't know any screen protectors that are, as of right now. So, I mean, that's just going to look ugly on that phone. Yeah,
you're just going to have a slab of glass on most of your screen because it can't be on all of it, physically speaking. And I haven't seen any for that, now that you mentioned that. Like, I haven't seen any for sale. I haven't seen any reviewed.
Because a lot of the covers, the screen protectors that I've seen, like, if you bend them too far, like, they all shatter.
Yeah, absolutely. I experienced that here this last week with my phone because the screen protector that I had on my Note actually shattered because I dropped it, and so like a corner was like peeling off and there was like scratched like really bad on the top. So I went and I bought another one, and I've never used a tempered glass screen protector until this phone, and that was my first one. So taking it off, I basically tried to like pry it off really slowly, but every pry that I tried on it would shatter the screen protector even more so.
Dude, I had a screen protector on my Pixel that, like, if it bent at all, like if I had it in my back pocket and I sat down, the entire screen protector would shatter and look like almost like if you've ever seen like a car window that has tinted glass but the window's broke but the tint is like holding it all together. It looked exactly like that. And I've had that happen like 3 times.
Yeah, and that's how traditional tempered glass is designed, which it's, I guess that's the price we pay to get that certain hardness, not so much the bendiness out of it. So I guess that's just something we have to live with if we want a tempered glass screen protector.
And I mean, basically what I'm getting at is, like you said, we're in Arizona, dust is in the air. I feel like there's going to be so much like dust and like little rocks or pebbles that might be in your pocket, or just debris, and if you don't have a screen protector and that gets stuck in between your phone while it's closed, folded shut, like your screen's done.
Yeah, it's basically like putting sandpaper in between them.
Yeah.
And scratching your screen. And same thing with like the hinges on the Galaxy Fold. In Arizona, that's gonna fail twice as fast and twice as hard. Because of that.
I don't see this phone selling to anybody who does the research. If they have money and they think it's cool, they're gonna buy it, but I don't see this selling particularly well in my eyes.
Yeah, it's not a budget offering, so I think a lot of people aren't going to pay that much attention to it, which is fine. We'll see what happens. Maybe 5 years from now, when they're on sale on eBay for $4.99, $5.99, I may pick one up, just for the hell of it, just to have one. But only time will tell. Only time will tell. But moving on from there, the next story kind of has to do with phones. Not with any particular phone itself, but actually something that went on in Google's internal phone division. The general manager and the camera mastermind behind the original Google Pixel left the company in March after the disappointing launch of the Pixel 4. And so we barely found out about this a couple days ago, only because it was not really public information. And the people who left, which is Mario Queiroz, who was the general manager, and Mark Lavoie, who was the scientist and engineer behind the Pixel's camera software. They recently updated their LinkedIn profiles to show that they had left Google and went to other companies to work for. That's pretty big there for the Pixel phones. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, especially with the direction that Pixels were headed with the Pixel 4. So what I believe happened was that these guys, they saw the Pixel as their pet projects, right? And so they wanted to do something bold for the fourth generation of the Pixel, and we got the Pixel 4, and it was a really big disappointment in the market. And Google didn't want the Pixels to take that route any longer, and so they kind of got rid of these people, right? If that's the case, then I fully agree with this course of action, only because the original Pixel was just such a well-designed phone. It made such a big ripple in the market. Same thing with the Pixel 2, same thing with the Pixel 3, and then at the cusp of it, at the Pixel 4, if we take a look at the Pixel line, every year there was something that was degreeably worse about the Pixels. At least that's how I feel, right? I only ever owned a Pixel and a Pixel 2. I didn't own a Pixel 3 or 4. But that's just me looking behind the glass on the last two generations. It seems that reviewers and people who owned them had something to complain about that was more severe every year, and that kind of got to the point with the Pixel 4 where it was like, why is there no fingerprint scanner? Why is the battery life so terrible? It doesn't feel, the performance-wise, it doesn't feel like a, $999 smartphone. And so I think Google had it with these people who are leading the project in that direction. And so I think that with new leadership, we could possibly see the Pixel 5 regain the trust of the market for Pixel phones, and that it's going to solve the issues that were present in the last models. It's going to have less gimmicky software features. It's going to have a bigger battery with more impressive battery life. And I think they're not gonna take as many risks with the Pixel line as they have been these past couple years. And I think that's something I can hop onto, to be honest. But again, this is just rumors. We don't know exactly what happened, but we know that the Pixel 4 was not an impressive phone. So this doesn't come as a surprise. So only time will tell what happens with the Pixel lineup, and I hope it only gets better because I'm a Pixel fanboy. I really like those phones. Even with me owning a Note right now, I really am looking forward to the next generation of Pixel phones because I really want to pick one up. So hi Yumi, our little guest cat just walked in, gave us a good little meow. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with the Pixel line here because of that. Two more tech stories. I feel like these aren't too detailed, so that's why I have a handful of them today. More stories than I usually do. But this next one is another phone leak, and these are rumors about the OnePlus Z, which is the OnePlus budget phone. That's rumored to come out here pretty soon. Just a little quick history lesson on the OnePlus brand. In its infancy, I believe this was maybe 2012, 2013, I want to say, with OnePlus. They were the company that became famous for creating cheap phones that were dubbed flagship killers, right? So at the time when flagship phones were like $700, $800, OnePlus would make $200, $300 phones, $350 phones with the same specs, with the same RAM, with the same high-end Snapdragon processor, and their goal was to kill the flagship phone and to really bring the price on phones down in the market. Now that's not so much the case. They make really, really good phones with flagship specs that are now at flagship prices, but historically speaking, the OnePlus phones, with the most recent ones at least, with the OnePlus 8, the OnePlus 8T, or whatever they're called. I've lost track on the OnePlus phones, to be honest. But nowadays, they're amazing phones, and they're among the fastest Android experience you can have. They have the fastest underscreen fingerprint sensor. They have the fastest animations and load times for phones. Like, these phones are beasts, okay? They're like $750 phones, $700 phones that outclass, like the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra. That's like $800 more almost, or $600 more. So, very impressive stuff here. Back in the day, they made a $200 OnePlus phone that was more like a mid-range killer. But they haven't done that in over 5 generations of the phones being released by OnePlus. And so this OnePlus Z is that new mid-range phone that's being prepared by OnePlus that was originally rumored to launch alongside the OnePlus 8 Pro and the OnePlus 8 here a couple months ago, but it never happened. Recently, there was a tweet that was released here with a silhouette of the OnePlus Z, and it says July 2020. So we're expecting this new OnePlus Z to come out in July 2020. As far as what we know about the OnePlus Z, it should be a very compelling mid-range option from OnePlus. The OnePlus Z design was leaked. And so we see that it's a full screen camera with like a candy bar, or a full screen phone with like a candy bar camera module on the back. That really looks like the OnePlus 8. They're bigger brothers, and so these renders look like it's going to be a pretty good phone. We've also seen pictures of the phone as well. There's going to be one hole punch camera on the center of the front of the display, which doesn't look too invasive. As far as the specs of the phone, they actually look really good. Looks like, according to the leaks, that because of the cheaper price tag, it's not going to be using a Snapdragon 865 processor, but it is rumored to have a MediaTek Dimensity chip in there. So that's a really interesting option for phone processors, especially because MediaTek is usually not one of the mentioned mobile phone processors, but they still make them. It's been a while since it's been on any phone really worth mentioning in recent news. It's going to have a 90 hertz screen, and here's the kicker: it's going to be 5G ready for a mid-range phone. Now, if we've been following the Pixel leaks, the Pixel 4a will not be 5G ready. So that's going to be a very, very compelling feature for you to consider, getting this OnePlus Z over the Pixel 4a. Additional information on these leaks show that it's going to have an in-display fingerprint sensor. It's going to have either 8 gigs of RAM or actually it's only going to have 8 gigs of RAM, and you can have it in either 128 or 256 gigabyte storage capacities. It's going to have a 4,000 milliamp hour battery and a 30 watt charging system as well for super fast charging. As far as the camera specs that have been leaked for it, it's going to be a 48 plus 16 plus 12 megapixel configuration. So there's going to be a dual camera on the back. The main one's going to be 48 megapixels. The secondary camera, whether that's telescoping or not, or some kind of black and white sensor, we don't know, but that's going to be 16 megapixels. And then the front-facing camera is going to be a 12 megapixel sensor. We'll see what that is. As far as the leaked pricing, speculation leads us to believe that it's going to be a $500 phone, so $100 more than the Pixel 4a.
And $500 less than that other ridiculous phone.
Yeah, than the Galaxy Fold Lite, than the budget Fold phone, for sure. And so, if this phone is $499, it's going to be, slotted right below the OnePlus 8, which is $745. And so this is going to be like the higher mid-end phone tier for sure. And again, so these are just leaks there. The OnePlus, Z is I feel like it's gonna be a very compelling option, only because if it is 5G ready, and if the MediaTek system on a chip that's in there is good and it's a fast performer, then this would be a really good phone for a long-term investment if you want to future-proof your phone. Because I don't see 6G rolling around anytime soon. If this phone's 5G ready, and if you take care of your phone, this could be your daily driver for the next 4 years,
easily,
something like that, 4 or 5 years. Whereas the Pixel 4a is going to be feeling more outdated much sooner because it's not 5G ready.
By the time the Google Pixel 5 rolls around later this year, probably.
yeah, and so most likely the Pixel 5 will be 5G ready. I personally believe, from what we know now, right? Me looking into the future, it's going to come down to, is the $100 price difference between the 4A and the OnePlus Z, is that worth paying for the 5G future proofing and most likely a slightly weaker camera?
I would say it's going to mostly depend on your location, because obviously not everywhere is going to have these 5G towers ready right away.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you live in a smaller town that's not going to have 5G for a year or two, there's no point in wasting the extra $100.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I could see this definitely popping off in bigger places that are going to have those 5G towers or already have those 5G towers built. But yeah, I think it's just going to depend on your location, personally.
Yeah, and what you value in your phone experience too. You know,
True.
I almost never take phones. Or never take pictures on my phone, rather. But when I got rid of my Pixel and got the Note, and the Note doesn't take as good pictures as the Pixel, man, it pissed me off. Yeah. And that's why I want to jump back into Pixel ecosystem, to be honest. Because when I do take pictures, I want them to look good.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the fine wine theory. You know, you don't do it often, but when you do drink wine, you want it to be good. Yeah. and it's gonna be, and you want it to be a good experience because it's only done so often. So yeah, that's me just being extra picky with my phones, apparently. So yeah, exciting stuff there for the OnePlus Z. It's gonna be a really good competitor against the Pixel 4a and the iPhone SE second generation. These are gonna be the mid-range fighters for that price range. Last tech news of this week is actually follow-up on more of the AMD Ryzen 3 chips that we've been talking for 3 weeks in a row now, thanks to me. But this past week, the AMD Ryzen 3 3100 chip was overclocked by a super massive amount. This little 4-core 8-thread processor was pushed to 5.94 gigahertz.
Oh, I seen this story.
And so, yeah, so that's ridiculous. Now, the reason why it was done on a Ryzen 3 3100 and not the Ryzen 3 3300X is because there's more room for overclocking on the Ryzen 3 3100 just because the chip is designed. You can't push the 3300X as far with an overclock with it running into, thermal and crashing and stability issues, which is why the Ryzen 3 3100 was used for a lot of the overclocking things that YouTubers were doing, including Gamers Nexus, and I believe Der Bauer is the gentleman who did a lot of the LN2 liquid nitrogen overclocking. And so for this story here, the Ryzen Ryzen 3 3100 was handled by a bunch of pro overclockers, and T-Sake, I don't think that's how it's pronounced, but TSAIK, a professional overclocker. When he got his hands on the Ryzen 3100, he immediately put his liquid nitrogen supply on it. And he got it to 5.923.62 megahertz, using a base clock of just 99.98 megahertz, which is a really, really tiny base clock, but that's what allowed it to stretch to that boost so high. Other specs on the overclock is that chip was pumping 1.45 volts, which is a lot because I think the stock Ryzen voltage is like 1.2. And voltage is really sensitive for overclocking. But they used the MSI MAG X570 Tomahawk Wi-Fi motherboard, and as far as to achieve that overclock on the CPU, he had to dial back the RAM a lot. He used a single 8 gigabyte stick of DDR4 memory running at 1,600 megahertz, which is about half of what RAM usually runs on your normal desktop computer. But yeah. Kind of related to the story, it's impressive to see all these things, to see the chips be pushed to their absolute limit, but it's really unrealistic for most people, right? No one has just a can of liquid nitrogen lying around for them to just completely overclock their CPUs, with, right? But on a more realistic note, someone actually overclocked their Ryzen 3 3100 to 4.9 gigahertz using just the stock air cooler.
Dang.
That comes with it. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, to me that's even more impressive, because that's going to represent, 95% of the use cases of people who buy this chip, especially with this one being a budget one, the $99 chip. I would say 99.9% of use cases of people who buy these chips here. So, again, just following up on those chips, they do not disappoint. If you need a budget gaming rig, 4 cores, 8 threads, just buy a Ryzen 3. Just buy a Ryzen 3 3100. Save the money that you save on, not buying a more expensive chip. Just put those savings towards a better GPU, and you'll be happy with your gaming. If you're strictly gaming, right? If you plan on doing media creation and things like that, you may want to rethink your build and your budget a little bit. If you're scraping for a Ryzen 3 3100, that's just my advice of the day. But AMD continues to impress with these new CPUs. And with that, I finish the tech portion this week, and I hand off the mic to you, Ruben.
Heard that, sir. All right, well, I got quite a few stories. A majority of them, believe it or not, are related to Epic.
Of course.
And to start that off, Epic's free game this week, a big one.
I got it.
Grand Theft Auto 5 Premium Edition for free on Epic, which is absolutely insane, because I think it was 2 episodes ago we were talking about game sales for March, and Grand Theft Auto 5 was still in the top, was like number 8.
Yeah, it was in the top 10 still.
Which is nuts that they'd give this away for free. They definitely want people to download Epic.
Yeah, and this is working.
Yeah, really well. I remember there was a bunch of online comments of people, like, when this was rumored the day before it happened, of people who were like, oh, everybody who has it already has it, this isn't a big deal, whatever. And Epic was down for more than 4 hours, for me anyway.
I want to say it was down for at least 10 hours, because I remember checking at around 10 a.m., and the news articles that I was reading already said that that Epic was down 6 hours ago, so at 10 a.m. Arizona time. And I wasn't able to claim and log on to my Epic account until about 5 p.m., something like that.
Yeah,
so
and
maybe that was like longer than 10 hours, maybe 12 hours.
There was so much traffic on all their servers that it was even affecting the games that run off their servers. Like, I want to say people couldn't even get into matches of Fortnite because they were just being overloaded so much.
Yeah.
They gave this away to start off their mega sales event, which is running from today until June 13th or 14th, I believe. And they announced that every week they're going to be giving out a big game during this whole sale.
Ooh.
This sale itself is pretty nuts, as we were talking about before. Like, you can claim a coupon. If you already have Grand Theft Auto 5, you don't have to get the game, but you can claim a coupon, or when you claim Grand Theft Auto 5, you're automatically given a $10 coupon.
Yeah.
That you can use towards any game that's $14.99 or above. And if you buy a game and use that coupon, they give you another coupon. So, like, you can get massive sales.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
That's a really good sales strategy, not gonna lie.
Epic is killing it, and to all the people who are still like, oh, it's no Steam, I'm not gonna download it, just shut up.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot.
Like, even if you don't want Epic that bad, I mean, I've thought about even doing this just with a second account, just claiming all the, like, super sick games, and then later down the road just selling your account.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever there's no more free games, when free games are outlawed in the United States of America,
and you have a library of 300 games.
Yeah, just chilling.
Next up, Epic has also announced that Unreal Engine games are no longer going to owe royalties on their first $1 million in revenue.
Dang.
Which is really big, considering that they used to collect royalties after $3,000 per quarter. It says, on top of unveiling Unreal Engine 5, which we're going to get into, Epic Games announced that developers who build games with Unreal Engine will no longer pay royalties on their first $1 million in revenue. The Unreal Engine has been free for anyone to use for a while, but until this change, 5% of royalties were due on commercial Unreal Engine games once they made $3,000 in a quarter. This new $1 million threshold is measured in lifetime revenue. This is super nice for smaller developers, indie developers. They'll be more inclined to, Epic already has stated that they'll cover costs of games, which prevents smaller companies from going out of business, and then allowing them to make this much profit before taking anything is really, really nice, especially since the Unreal Engine is, I believe that's the one that's like just totally free to download, correct?
I think so. It's not Unity, is it?
Oh, no, it is Unity.
I'm pretty sure Unity is free.
It is Unity. Yeah, that's the one. But still, Epic is like killing it.
Yeah, they're being super aggressive in the market right now. They're doing a really good job of establishing their presence right out of the gate, with their free games, and now here with the Unreal Engine. That's just nuts. That's such a good incentive for people to just hop on the platform and just start making games. That, if I was a game dev that was serious about commercializing my game, just go for it.
Yeah, I honestly I've supported Epic Games from the beginning of their client launch. I honestly don't see the issue. People who talk down on it, I feel like just talk down on it just because of who Epic Games is.
Yeah. Because Fortnite name, whatever, 12-year-olds play Fortnite. They associate that together without without letting go of their pride, of I don't want to associate with that. It's like, screw you, dude. If they're giving away free stuff, just do it. It's literally they're not hurting you. Just accept the free gift, man.
And then another Epic story for game devs that is super, super sick and makes me really excited for the future, because I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but Epic's multiplayer systems are now available for other devs to use for free.
Nice.
Which basically means that they're giving away the cross-platform matchmaking and other online systems that develop for Fortnite.
That's really good.
Crossplay is obviously very new, and if I recall, it seems to me like Fortnite was the first one to do it. I don't
think so.
I don't remember any other games doing it beforehand, but passing this on is super nice just because obviously it's not cheap. A lot of smaller companies don't want to put in the time and effort to do this because it is costly.
Yeah.
So them just giving that away is super nice, as well as their other online systems. I would assume mean cross save, because if you play Fortnite on console and then PC, all your progress carries over,
which is nice.
And mobile, so you don't have to buy stuff twice or earn stuff twice, which is super, super neat. You don't have to play double. They announced this way back in 2018, and they finally completed the task of making it readily available and finalized out for everyone to use. They provided the essential framework for friends lists, matchmaking, and lobbies, and other cross-platform multiplayer services for games made in any engine and distributed on any store. Let's see here.
That's so good. I think it's really good to disrupt the market with how selfish it's been. With Xbox being Xbox, PlayStation being PlayStation, Nintendo being Nintendo. Forget about it.
Yeah.
For any of those ever playing nice with each other. So I think they saw the need in the market for it, from a consumer perspective, right? The companies aren't going to implement it because it just doesn't make any monetary sense for them. But if Epic can come in with offering a free crossplay platform for people to integrate into their games, the console manufacturers will have no choice but to play along. They can't escape it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to make a dent in their profits, and that's going to force Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo to evolve. They're going to have to adapt to that, or else they're going to fail.
Sony, especially, because I feel like they're the last ones to want to do crossplay.
Yeah.
Xbox has stated numerous times that they're all for it. The same with Nintendo. Sony's kind of been slowly trickling in with games. Like, obviously, it took them a while to accept Fortnite, and then they came out and did it with Call of Duty. I'm glad to see that this is hopefully going to become more universal on hopefully every game now that it's free for devs to use.
Yeah.
There's not going to be any more excuses on why it can't be, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if a game dev doesn't include it, to me, I feel like they're just being lazy, unless it is a really, really small company or like a team of 1 to 20 people.
Yeah, and if they're making excuses, they're not, most of the time, they're not going to be valid excuses.
Yeah.
Especially if they're on a published platform.
Where they have that funding and backing.
Yeah.
Next up, Epic Games announces Unreal Engine 5.
And man, does it look good.
It looks so good. There was obviously a lot of backlash of people who didn't understand that it's not just a tech demo where it's rendered by computers. This was actually a gameplay demo that was set to be playable at GDC, but of course, coronavirus happened and canceled that. So they just did a live play running off of PlayStation 5 hardware. And the amount of detail and the smoothness and lighting.
The lighting was so
good.
It was so good.
There were certain scenes where it would show just like the environment, and I would say if you were to show that to someone who didn't know it was a game, they would believe it was real.
Yeah.
Like, it is insane.
Yeah, the lighting was super impressive to me. Just like the amount of the way the light rays were being traced, the way they were being rendered, what really got to me was the high dynamic range, because in the same scene you'd have a direct ray of light shining down from above, and then right behind it you'd have like a dark cave that you could see there, and that's really hard to pull off in a video game, just because engines haven't had their engines coded to really handle that as far as how their lightings are rendered. But in this engine, it pulls it off really, really well. So
yeah.
I'm really excited to see how that is going to be applied in games on traditional gaming hardware, especially for PCs. And we're going to have a lot of good-looking games based off of that engine in the future.
Obviously, you're not going to see, games like this right off of release.
No.
I think it would be really dumb to assume that. You're probably not going to see anything to this scale until late 2021.
Because it takes a long time to develop games to that level.
And then maybe even 2022, just because of how everything got pushed back because of coronavirus. Next year is definitely going to be impacted with that. But I feel like also, while this does look very good, it's not going to come without some sacrifice. So while it may look this good and clean, I don't believe, me personally, they haven't said anything on this, I don't believe you're going to be getting that 60 frames per second on that hardware running that high.
On 4K, most likely it's not going to reach 4K 60. I don't think so either, just because, especially for consoles are becoming more powerful, but by design, they will never be the most powerful things on the market, right? Because, it's meant to be an affordable design for people to just play games at home, and you can't put a $1,000 GPU in a $700 gaming console. the numbers just don't add up. no
Not
matter
to-
how it's designed.
Not to mention, with PCs, even if you buy the max everything, the most expensive everything, you can still make it better with overclocking. You're not going to be overclocking your PlayStation or Xbox, as far as we know now.
Right. Right. Well,
if they announce overclocking on those...
Oh my gosh, that'd be ridiculous. People would take it so far. But yeah, I mean, the way that, the philosophy behind consoles is to make it affordable, make it controlled. That way it's a consistent experience across the board for anyone who buys one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think consoles will ever have overclocking features on them, for you to adjust the voltages, adjust the timings, so just the clocks. None of that's ever going to be available because it's going to ruin the experience for everyone.
Yeah.
And people are going to end up breaking their machines even more so than they do now. But yeah, so there's limitations in consoles that are going to make amazing games really hard to run, no matter the technology behind them. But that doesn't mean that that the games can't be optimized to run as well as they can for that particular set of hardware. That's one of the benefits of having a console, is that it's such a controlled experience that you can make the game experience pretty consistent and really make it perform to the top of its level.
And it's more or less foolproof, whereas on a PC, if you're messing with all those settings, overclocking and stuff, if you don't know what you're doing, you can potentially screw up your system.
Oh yeah, very easily. Bring out the liquid nitrogen.
Right. My final story, because I do have some things I want to discuss, some game announcements that we saw and some trailers we watched. So my final story will be, in terms of consoles will never outperform PCs, Epic Games' Tim Sweeney is convinced that the PS5 will be the blueprint for SSD solutions of the future, and claims, sir, that the PS5's SSD speeds are better than anything you can buy on the market for current PCs.
I have so many issues with that statement that I'm willing to call BS on it right now. Because one, he's the leader of a game company, not a tech company.
Mm-hmm.
So what does he know about tech speeds, or what does he know about bus speeds? What does he know about data transfer rates? What does he know about anything really? We don't even know anything about PS5, and I guarantee you that he hasn't seen a single spec sheet of the PS5, and all he has seen has either been direct or indirect presentations of someone telling him, this is the PS5, this is how fast the PS5 goes, this is how fast a gaming PC goes, PS5's better. That's probably all he has ever seen or received about it. Probability of what he's saying being true, 10%.
I feel like, obviously, since he's obviously working closely with Sony, because the demo they showed off is an Unreal Engine, which is from Epic. So I would assume he was more or less, in a way, obligated to say something along these lines. And he also claimed that he is not stating that Xbox will not also perform like this, but he personally has worked more with PlayStation and gotten more hands-on with PlayStation.
Yeah.
He also says that the PC market is going to see this thing ship and say, wow, SSDs are going to need to catch up with this.
Doubt.
Hard for me to believe, beans that I just recently upgraded from hard drives to SSDs, and I can't believe the speed of SSDs. So, if this thing is faster, I can't picture it, because SSDs are so remarkably fast.
Yeah, they really are.
So if this thing is fast compared to the fastest SSDs on the market, you're telling me that this PlayStation, in theory, is going to be... You're going to be able to turn on and be in a game in under 2 seconds.
Doubt.
And just it being turned on in under a second. Which would be nuts if they can hit it.
Yeah, that's... I have so many issues with this. There are no numbers, okay? There are no megabit per second transfer speeds. There's no gigabit per second transfer speeds listed. There's no technology terms turned around. Like, are the SSDs in the PS5? Are they QLC? Are they TLC NAND flash? Are they, what kind of controllers are they using? What generation, bus are they using? PCIe Gen 4, PCIe Gen 3? What? I need specs, right? I'm a specs guy. I'm a numbers guy. So unless this guy knows some super secret PCIe Gen 5 with Intel Optane Gen 3, technology built into the PS5, which I highly doubt is the case for data transfer rates. Or unless somehow there's like a weird, like a CPU level 3 caching system built into the SSD or something. I'm not buying any of that until I hear the facts, until I hear the tech behind it to compare to what we have now in the current market with Intel Optane, which is that being super fast, and then PCIe Gen 4 with that being super fast as well. I ain't having it. I'm waiting till these things ship. I'm waiting till people tear them apart. I'm waiting till we get a data sheet on that to put a verdict on it, because I guarantee you most likely this is just a normal SSD, but there's going to be system level optimizations for the custom OSs in each of the consoles that are going to make them run a certain way and make it feel faster than a traditional SSD does on a computer that just has to load Windows as opposed to the console operating system. That's I guarantee. I'm calling it right now. That's exactly what's going on with the consoles. And whoever's selling this stuff to these game execs is doing a really good job, because it's made it to the news cycle.
In terms of news, sir, that is all I have. But I have a few games that I feel like we should discuss and our thoughts on them.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So we have Ghost of Tsushima, Paper Mario, The Origami King, and Tony Hawk 1 and 2 remake.
Remastered. Yeah. Let's talk Ghost first.
Ghost of Tsushima, I'm down.
Yeah.
Alright, so what are your thoughts on this game in terms of environment, combat, and stealth, which is basically the forefront of what we saw. Oh, and customization, of course.
Yeah. So my thoughts on it is that from what we have now, it's going to be a very, very cinematic game. It's going to be a game where you have to sit down, you have to watch it to really play it, and you're not going to really get around, playing it on budget hardware. You're going to have really good hardware to run this game in order to get the experience that the developers really want you to get out of it, because it looks absolutely beautiful from the demo that was showed. Absolutely beautiful. And the music looks amazing, the textures look amazing, the color choice, the theme, everything just works so well. I'm a big fan of like traditional, Japanese, culture and things like that. I'd like to know more about it, but what I do know and what I have seen, I'm in love with that whole theme. So this game definitely piqued my interest, thematically, visually speaking. As far as the combat that I saw, we didn't really get to see a lot of the mechanics of the combat. To me, my theory is that it's like a quick time event based combat system, with some freedom for you to kind of mess around there with it being an open world game. That's my theory. Because we don't really have a lot to go off. We just saw a lot of the combat happen, not so much how the combat happens, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it does look super clean. The animations look amazing. The death animations for the people that you just slice, is amazing. You have limbs being hacked off. You have blood textures. You have people's facial expressions when you slice their necks open. Like they look like they're dying.
Yeah.
So it's not just like they spin around and just fade into the ground. Like people usually do. It's not like Skyrim where they just kind of, they throw their shoulder over and they just fall down, ragdoll physics. It's not like that. Again, it's very cinematic. It's very visual. So, and the stealth is very much the same way. You have to be, stealthy. Traditional stealth mechanics. There was nothing really impressive about that to me. But again, visually speaking, stealth does look really fun. It looks fun. It looks very satisfying to accomplish.
the stealth executions and the fact that, you know, enemies will start to fear you while you're playing in this way, were super interesting to me. All the different executions they did were super sick. And like when the dude was on the ground crawling backwards and he just walks past them and like sticks his sword in his chest, like that was just so sick to me. Another thing that stood out to me in terms of combat was the blood itself. It wasn't like, you know, you bring up Skyrim, it wasn't like you beat someone and blood's just flying any which way. Like the blood follows the way you would imagine it really would when you do that sword swipe. Like it flies out with the sword, which is super nice.
Yeah. It's not just like it's not a splatter texture that just spawns over their body.
Another thing that I really like is the way you get around the island, like the way it points you towards your next objective with calling in the wind, and you see like the wave of the wind telling you where to go.
Yeah. I
like that way more than, you know, a light trail or an arrow pointing or
a dot.
Yeah, a dot on your map. I'm really excited for this. I'm gonna have to buy a PlayStation because it is PlayStation exclusive, of course.
Me too. I would have to buy one.
The game to me almost comes off as Sekiro, but not nearly as difficult.
Yeah, Sekiro, but not Souls-like.
And then another thing that I really like also with the customization, I feel like we haven't had many samurai-esque games that have heavy customization. Like it looked like you could customize just about everything on your character.
Yeah, for sure. Armor, robes, colors, hats, swords.
Yeah.
Even the tsuba on your sword and the wrapping on your handle of your sword, that's customizable too. And it affects your gameplay too.
Yeah.
You know, it affects your armor, affects your speed, your strength. Yeah, it's stat sensitive. So I think that's really, really cool.
There was something else about this game that I wanted to talk about that I thought was super neat, and it just left my mind. Any final thoughts on it, sir, while I try and recall?
I really like the extra things that they're putting in there about how you can play the game. Like you have the classic black and white mode.
That's what I was thinking of.
With the film grain. Yeah, I thought that was what you were. I thought that's what you were trying to muster up there. But yeah, so there's a way to play the game. There's two things that I'm particularly interested about playing this game with, and that's one with the classic mode enabled, which puts it in black and white and gives it that classic film grain look, like a filmed movie. And also there's a Japanese voice version. Well, not version. I assume it's the main version of the game, but it's completely voiced in Japanese with English subtitles. So,
which is super nice. And they said that it's going to give you the option before you see any of the game. Like you won't see any cutscenes or anything until you choose this, which is super nice.
I think that's how I'd play through the main story of the game the first time around.
Definitely.
Black and white, Japanese audio only, subtitles.
I will be kind of bummed if you have to beat the game to unlock black and white.
I hope not.
I don't see them advertising it if it wasn't readily available at the start.
Right. That'd be a dumb move.
Yeah. But oh my god, that black and white looks so sick.
It does. It's so cool.
And then as you stated, you know, the soundtrack is really nice. You have those those authentic Chinese and Japanese instruments playing in the background, which really sets the tone really nice. The colors of the environment's really nice. Obviously, like I told you when we were watching it, it really only looks like they need to touch up a few textures, but other than that, this game looks gorgeous.
Yeah. One thing I did forget to mention about the combat is the standoffs.
Standoffs are so sick.
And look, it just like you just approach an enemy, the screen goes from a full screen to like a really wide aspect ratio with the black bars on top and bottom. You're like, oh, something's gonna go down, and then your characters face off. It looks like a movie. Yeah. Even though they're just video game character models, they square up like the classic like old western showdown type of things, and the next thing you know, boom, you chop off that guy's head, and you're hopped into the combat to fight everyone else.
Yeah, it's very it definitely reminds me of of those samurai movies where, you know, they'll have a standoff and they'll both charge at each other or whatever, and then it'll show them both, and then one of them will just fall. Like, that's what it reminded me of. Even though it didn't obviously look like that, that's how it made me feel.
Yeah, it invoked the same emotional response in
Yeah.
you as those movies did, and it definitely did for me too.
Would you like to keep talking on this or move on, sir?
I've expressed everything.
Yeah, I think that's all my thoughts. Next up, I would say Paper Mario, just because I don't have a whole lot to say about this, other than the idea for this second one, the Origami King, is super dope. Like, seeing the kingdom slowly transform into folds and Mario have to save it being his normal 2D paper self.
Yeah.
is a really good idea, and it looks like they executed it perfectly.
Yeah. I seeing that trailer, it gave me a real sense of adventure.
Yeah.
Which is rare for like a video game trailer to give, right? So for something that's like Paper Mario.
Yeah.
Of all things. Of course we get it like when we see like an Elder Scrolls trailer, or when we see like a Tomb Raider trailer, or even Ghost of Tsushima. When we see those, we get that the Paper Mario trailer invoked the same sense of adventure for me, which had me confused a little bit. I'm like, wait a second, like, this is Paper Mario. Like, they're doing a really good job in this trailer. I think, in the same way, I think the whole paper theme with origami, and with that, being the main antagonist is the Origami King, we assume. I think that's a really cute idea. I think it's really creative, and it's a Mario game, so it's gonna be a great game.
It's gonna sell.
Yeah, it's gonna sell, and a lot of people are gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who've been asking for a Paper Mario since the first one, which was GameCube.
Yeah,
I remember playing that in a Target, I believe.
Me too. I remember playing the demo at a Walmart, just like looking up at the screen, like give you the neck cricks.
And like, I never played the full game, but that 10 or 15 minutes that I have played of the first one, this trailer like instantly made me think of those 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
The open world like environments look so nice, and everything just looks really great. And I'm super excited to see this on the Wii.
Yeah.
On Switch, not Wii.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great game for sure. It's not gonna be for everyone, but it's gonna be a high quality game. I'm excited to see what it's like.
Next up, sir, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2.
Oh yes, so excited! It looks so good.
It looks great.
Yeah. If it and I mentioned this to you as we were watching the trailer. If this game is half as fun as Skate 3, it's gonna be a great game. It's gonna be so much fun to play.
People have been asking for a solid Tony Hawk game forever because it's just gone downhill since, I believe, what was it, Tony Hawk's Ride, the one that had like
the physical skateboard controller.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was 360, wasn't it? That was
I believe
Xbox
so.
360
And then
days.
after that, they put out like Tony Hawk 5, which flopped horribly, and now they went back to 1 and 2.
Yeah, and then Skate was wildly popular.
Yeah, Skate definitely took over the skateboarding games. After Tony Hawk fell hard. I'm super excited for this because just watching the trailer gave me super nostalgic feels, and like seeing that Tony Hawk 1 warehouse was just
Yeah, it looks so good.
Dude.
Like this game, so these remastered versions are what I remember seeing in my head playing the original Tony Hawk Pro Skater games. Like, that's what I remember those games being.
And then
you go back and you're like, oh, like, those graphics are terrible. I remember them being way better than that.
Which they did in the trailer, which like made you really appreciate it because you're like, oh, it looks how I remember, but not. Like, and what they're doing with this game is really cool. Like, it's not going to be like most combo packages where in the menu you have to choose which game you want to play. They are actually going to be merging them so it's like one big game. And the way they explained it, it seems like your Create a Skater from Tony Hawk 1 will be able to carry over into 2 with all your stats and stuff, which is super nice. They're adding in the online multiplayer, which is going to be super sick. And I believe they said the price was $40. It's not even going to be a full $60 game.
Dang.
Which is super dope.
Yeah, yeah, and I think just going off of what you were saying about the games kind of being integrated, I think that's why they named the game Tony Hawk's, Pro Skater 1 plus 2, because it's a package deal and they come together. So if that's how they're planning on merging them together, then I think that's perfect. I think they couldn't have done it better.
I'm so excited to create my own skate park again.
Yeah.
I remembered creating a skate park on like the old one, and you could add like the squares of lava and stuff. I'm so stoked, dude. I'm so ready.
I'm gonna make a skate park where it's just one long pipe, just like
one long rail, just surrounded by lava. It is going to be releasing on all consoles except for Switch as well.
Poor Switch.
I definitely see it coming to Switch later. I think it would be a dumb move not to throw it on there.
Yeah.
Just because a mobile Tony Hawk game of that caliber would sell so well.
Yeah.
I hope with this that they take the Resident Evil route and they remake Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 and Underground 1 and 2. especially for an Underground 1. I'd be happy with just that.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited for this, sir. I know you're fairly excited. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss?
I don't think so. Nothing comes to mind. Biomutant, still no news on that. That's all I wanted to say.
You think you've cracked the case on it, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. So THQ Nordic, they've been working. So they haven't released Biomutant because they've been working on SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom, which looks really good.
That Nickelodeon money.
Yes. So as soon as that's out of the way, then I think Biomutant's gonna hit the shelves. Finally, please, I want to play that game. It looks so sick. Every time I see the gameplay trailer, I'm like, this is gonna be a cool game. But still not out. Still no official news on it. That's all I had to report for today.
Oh man. Yeah, that's all I have to talk about as well, sir. There was something I was. If they remake this SpongeBob one, there's a bunch of other Nickelodeon games that I think would be super sick remade, but I can't think of the names of them. I want to say there's one where you travel to like different Nickelodeon worlds, where like one level you're in Fairly Odd Parents, and one level is like Jimmy Neutron, but I can't remember the name of it.
I need a Jimmy Neutron game. I want to watch the old Jimmy Neutron movie now. My siblings were watching it the other day, but I had to leave for something, so I didn't watch it. But that was a fun movie. From what I remember, it was a fun movie.
All right, sir. We are past our hour mark.
Yeah.
I believe it would be fair to call it now.
Yeah. Let's we'll go ahead and end the show here. We'll give our usual outro. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of the Let's Talk About It podcast. Our YouTube audience is slowly rising. We have 7 subscribers last time I checked, and that was a couple days ago.
And we got like 4 or 5 new followers on Facebook as well, like today.
Yeah, and that's because I shared the post. Back in October, I posted that if the Let's Talk About It Facebook page got 100 likes, that I would eat a dog treat, and I would film it. We'd live stream it. So I reshared that post today. And that got a little extra likes on the Facebook page.
We're at like 85, I think.
Yeah, we're so close. All we need is 15 more likes, guys, and you can see me eat dog food. Which, if you haven't seen that video of that dude eating fancy dog food versus cheap dog food, that's kind of what I expect. But yeah, so that's over the horizon. Get our Facebook page to 100 likes. I'll eat a dog treat. I would like to film the whole experience of like going to like a dog store and looking at all the dog treats and choosing one.
We gotta get you like a bacon flavored one.
Yeah. I'll ask the associate which one tastes the best for a human. They're like, wait, what? But that's the plan. We got our hot sauce around the corner. We got the Chipotle giveaway that we're ironing out the details for. So that's over the horizon. We're waiting until the whole coronavirus thing ends here for the Chipotle giveaway. That way you can enjoy it out at Chipotle at a sit-down restaurant. If that's, since I'm sure that's like what 90% of people want to do after this whole quarantine thing ends. So stay tuned for that. But other than that, we appreciate your support as always, guys, and we are signing off.
We will play our outro music.
Outro
now.
music. We need more outro music. I'll search for some.